Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast. This is episode number 27, and I, as always, am your host, Ben Hersick. Let's see, I've been back from DC for a couple days. It was a very fun convention, very happy that I was lucky enough to go. I'm actually putting on a hat because it's kind of cold out here. Well, in the area I record this, it's pretty cold. Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time. And I didn't watch any wrestling until I got back on. I didn't even watch Monday Night Raw. I saw NXT, so that's the most wrestling I've really seen. I've been able to keep up, though, thanks to social media. So I know some of the going-ons. I know the big news. World Tag League got their participants announced yesterday, I believe. Full Gear is this week. I know all about the Saudi Arabia plane situation stuff. And to be honest, we still don't know everything about that. So, this one's going to be a little bit more packed with stuff compared to other editions of this podcast, but I do think that after pretty much a week of me not talking pro wrestling and recording an episode on Tuesday instead of Thursday like usual, I got a lot of bases I need to cover. So first off, as always, let's start with the Twitter mentions that I always do. You can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, which is a website that I write for. We cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. If you missed it, we had a huge announcement. We have lunchboxes now. Yeah, you can buy an All Things Combat lunchbox. You can put your lunch in your All Things Combat lunchbox and show all your friends at work how cool you are that you read All Things Combat. Also, we have Christmas merch now. Yeah, we have Christmas merch. We got hoodies, we got hats, we got sweatshirts. We have a lot of stuff, so go out and buy those if you want. Link will be in the description below. And I'm also the sports editor for The Cauldron, which is why I didn't record a podcast on Thursday last week. I did it on Tuesday. And you can follow us at CSU on Twitter at CSU Cauldron. I had an article this week in our online-only issue, which was covering the not the pro wrestling team, the collegiate wrestling team. Very fun to get to go talk to those guys. If you saw on Twitter, I got a free shirt. Those guys are awesome. Very excited to see what they can do this year. New conference and everything. But you guys aren't here to listen to me ramble about amateur wrestling, even though I have a background in it. You want to hear me talk about pro wrestling. So, let's start with... Let's see, where should we start? I want to end with Full Gear predictions specifically. Let's talk about the Saudi Arabia incident. I might be the first person to call this the Plane Ride from Hell Part 2. I don't know if anybody else has said that, but I might be the first one to say it. I don't know. So, the whole story goes, Vince and other people left after a potential dispute with Saudi Arabia government, management, whoever it was. It was rumored to be about payment from the last event they did there. So Vince and everyone pretty much just jetted out as soon as they could. There was about 175, I believe the number was, people there for an extra day. Problem was, a lot of them needed to be there for SmackDown, which was the next day. So, it's going around that it could have been they were held hostage. It was reported it might be a mechanical issue. We don't know the full extent, and to be honest, we might never know the full extent. And I look at it as this is a tough spot to be in for both a professional side and the athlete side. Usually in sports, fans take the side of the athletes, and to be fair, a lot of people are taking the side of the WWE wrestlers here. I'm in that camp. I believe there might have been something a little more at play than what we know, but also I can see from a management side where it could have actually legitimately been a mechanical issue with the plane. If that's the case, then case open, close, we're done. But you look at the whole situation, there are questions about it, especially if there was a dispute between Saudi Arabia and WWE about payment. Why would WWE and Saudi Arabia announce an extension in their working agreement to 2027? Things don't add up there. Also, I'm very curious now, when they go do their first show there next year, who's not going to go? Where no Daniel Bryan's not going, Sami Zayn's not going, Kevin Owens and Aleister Black are not going. Brian Owens for personal reasons, Zayn for religious reasons, and Aleister Black due to, I believe it was the nature of his tattoos, if I remember reading that report correctly. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not going to put like a 2 cents thing. Like, here's my thoughts on the thing. I'm just reporting the facts that I know. The facts are there was an issue. We don't know the exact truth. I'm pretty sure this is going to be something we never know the exact truth of. And that's totally fine by me. It's going to be one of those wrestling mysteries that we tell our kids about for years to come. And I'm more than happy with having something like that. Now, let's see, what else was it I want to talk about? Oh yeah, TakeOver War Games and the Survivor Series being Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. First off, how beat are those NXT guys going to be the next night? Because I guarantee you, if we're looking at a 5-on-5-on-5 tag team style match, Team NXT for the women's division, it depends on how certain stories play out. I can see Rhea Ripley, Candice LeRae, and Mia Yim definitely being there, and Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox make the most sense. Or you go Tegan Nox, Toni Storm, because of the possibility kind of floating around of a Dakota Kai heel turn, which honestly I'd love to see. But if that doesn't happen, Kai takes that 5th spot. But they have War Games the night before. 4 of those women would be in War Games, possibly all 5. It's going to be interesting to see because, usually with an NXT takeover the night before, you don't see those guys till next week's NXT. Or the week after's NXT. They get a week off, essentially. So, now I look at it, they're going back-to-back nights. Ciampa, Johnny Gargano's probably going to be on the show, Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Damian Priest will probably be there, Pete Dunne, Shayna Baszler's already confirmed, Undisputed Era's going to be on there, Adam Cole probably to some extent, same with Roddy Strong. Those guys are going to be tired as hell. Maybe even Finn Balor, who knows. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm very intrigued by this build. There's only a couple weeks left. Right now we have 2 confirmed matches, I believe. I know the women's triple threat is confirmed and the tag team triple threat is confirmed. Let's look here. Survivor Series 2019. Confirmed. Oh, right. Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio. Almost forgot about that part. Now, I'm curious if that means we're not going to see a world champion triple threat, essentially. Where we have Brock Lesnar already in a match. I could easily see them adding a stipulation to it. This match is going to kick off the main show because you're not going to put the WWE Championship on the pre-show. And the winner of this match advances to the main event later in the night. I could see, and that's the reason why if you look at my Twitter, I have my predictions for the show, like my actual match card predictions. I have Rey Mysterio in the main event against The Fiend and Adam Cole, because of the fact that I can see Rey Mysterio winning the title via shenanigans, maybe. Who knows? Maybe Dominic's involved. Could be Cain Velasquez again. Who knows? But I can see that happening. And that would cause Rey Mysterio to advance. And then in the main event, you have somebody who could take a loss. Rey Mysterio has an excuse of having wrestled Brock freaking Lesnar earlier in the night. And he's going to be tired compared to a fresh Bray Wyatt and a fresh Adam Cole. And you want to keep both of those guys red hot. And I will say there are some guys I'm still curious about their positioning on it. Like, what's Roman Reigns going to do? Where's Braun Strowman fit in? What's Daniel Bryan's role going to be? Obviously, those 3 could easily be on Team SmackDown. But I would like to see a thing where it's like not all triple threats on this show. I like to see certain times where it's SmackDown versus NXT. It's Raw versus SmackDown. It's Raw versus NXT. Like example, I think I had Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins in my fantasy booking. Along with, what's his name? Roman Reigns versus Tommaso Ciampa. Things like that would be interesting to see, and something you could actually feasibly see happening. Like, we can see after the Twitter exchange they had, we can see Ciampa versus Roman Reigns actually happening. So, there's still a couple weeks to build. We'll see how the build goes next week. Very excited for it, and I can't wait to see what's coming next. So now let's take a look at World Tag League. In New Japan, they've announced the 16 participants There's a couple of disappointing things for me in there. Like, I would have liked to have seen Goto and Yoshihashi instead of Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Goto getting stuck with a young lion. There's a couple other things, too. Like, I look at the big thing being the fact that you have Chase Owens and Fale as one team, and you have Kenta and Yujiro Takahashi as another. You could easily have Kenta and Fale as a team, have Fale be the muscle for Kenta, because you don't want Kenta to take a loss going in the Wrestle Kingdom against... Still possibly, they keep teasing it against Shibata. And you could easily have Chase Owens and Yujiro Takahashi as a team, because they've teamed for a few times now. They know each other through and through, so it would make more sense, I would think. And there are other teams that are interesting. Shingo Takagi versus... Not Shingo Takagi versus... Shingo Takagi and El Terrible. Yes, I read it as first as terrible. I'm like, he has to be from CMLL. Turns out I'm right. He's a member of Los Ingobernables. So, very interesting connection. Why couldn't they have just gotten Roosh? Probably because he's busy with Ring of Honor as their world champion. But why couldn't they have just gotten Roosh for this? I would have liked to have seen that a lot more. To me, it comes down to 6 teams. I'm not going to reveal all of them. I will say the 2 teams that have been in the finals the past 2 years, actually the 3 teams that have been in the finals the past 4 years, I believe. Let me actually look this up, because I am not 100% sure. RL, World Tag. Should just look at World Tag and it should show up, I think. I'll just turn that on. I love when this takes forever. So the past 3 World Tag Leagues finals, those are 3 of my top 6. It will be interesting to see because of the fact that it seems like New Japan's main priority is not their tag team division, which I totally understand. They have so much else going on. That's also something I kind of want to touch on, but I kind of want to wait till Wrestle Kingdom. The possibility of them doing a double champion match, where whoever wins the main event of Wrestle Kingdom Day 1, between Ibushi and Okada, will face probably either Jay White or Tetsuya Naito, whoever comes out as Intercontinental Champion, in a winner-take-all. And I hate winner-take-alls. I'll explain that later. But with the Tag League, this can give you a chance to invest in some other teams, get some other teams out there, and maybe, build up the next big team in New Japan. We haven't seen the next big team since, I guess, Tenkozy and Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima. Yeah, Fit Juice is a possibility in there. I would like to see them do a little more. I don't want to see them win the championships this year. I don't want to see that happen. But I want to see them have a really, really, really good showing to get them to that point. And then we can see where that goes. Now, let's look. So that would put us up to Full Gear. So let's look at the card, and I will make my predictions here live when I am recording this. There's, 8 matches confirmed? I thought it was a lot less. 8 matches confirmed as of right now. Let's start with the one pre-show match, B. Priestley versus Britt Baker. It feels like this is an easy win for B. Priestley, to be completely honest. I enjoy it. I will say, at first I kind of said Britt Baker just was not ready for the prime time. And to be fair, at first it kind of looked like she wasn't. She didn't show up to her first AEW match ready to go. Her match with Riho was kind of meh. But she's improved here steadily, which is very good to see. And I'm very curious as to where they go with her next, because I feel like B. Priestley is winning here for sure. She's one of the people who is going to be one of the top heels in their women's division. Maybe next to Awesome Kong, I'm not 100% sure. Now, it also kind of feels like they could build up B to be this big bad heel, and then eventually Britt Baker gets her revenge. This might be the last time we see B. Priestley in an AEW ring till maybe next year. I believe she's in one of Stardom's tag team tournaments going on here, starting here soon, I believe. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see where she really ends up. I'm very curious to see. I'm very excited to see what she does next. But I feel like B. Priestley gets the win here tonight, or at Full Gear. And I want to see just how good they make each other look. Because it's really hard to say how much potential they have, because I haven't seen personally a lot of Britt Baker. I haven't really seen too much B. Priestley. I've seen stuff here and there, but I haven't seen full-length matches because YouTube, people usually upload highlights to avoid copyright strikes, which is fair play, and that's how I get a lot of my research done. But I'm going with B. Priestley there. So now I'm just going to go up from the bottom of the card, how it's listed on Wikipedia, because that's the only place you can really get wrestling cards. Not true, but that's where I get mine. That's where I can see mine. Joey Janela versus Shawn Spears. This has the writing of Shawn Spears winning, getting a win back in AEW, which I am totally fine with. And I look at it, this feels like a late minute ad. They were like, oh, right, we have Shawn Spears. I'm still going to say the reason him and both him and Peyton Royce were off of their respective companies' television programming was because of the fact they're on their honeymoon. That is my thing I'm going with. I am pretty sure that's the reason. It's not because either of them were in a doghouse for dating somebody or getting married to somebody outside of their promotion. It's simply because they actually got time off to enjoy with themselves. Now, Spears was in a kind of a weird spot ever since his loss to Cody to me. He lost that match to Cody, and I immediately thought that Spears made the wrong choice leaving. He's getting used, yes, but he was not winning still. Now he's starting to kind of build, it seems like, a bit of a winning streak up, and Janela's kind of going to be that next stepping stone. Like, right now you have your big bads, and I guess Moxley qualifies as a heel? Question mark, is he? I don't really know. You have Inner Circle, and you have Pac. Shawn Spears is like the mid-card heel that you're going to have. Yes, Jimmy Havoc's probably going to become one of those eventually. I hope. Maybe Janela too. He's called the bad boy, for crying out loud. So we'll see how that develops. But Shawn Spears should walk away with the win on Saturday. Blech. It's so weird not saying Sunday for a main show pay-per-view. But it's where we are. Next up is the triple threat for the AEW World Tag Team Championships between SoCal Uncensored, represented here by Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, the Lucha Bros and Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, and Private Party and Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. Now, here's the thing. I don't think Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian are losing their titles first defense. I don't see that happening simply because of the fact it's their first defense. They're not going to let that go to waste, essentially. AEW is not going to be like WWE sometimes. Whenever somebody just wins a title for the first time, they lose it the next time out. I see them not having a super long reign with SoCal, but I see them having a decent reign. Maybe when Daniels comes back, they drop it the first match because they try the Freebird rule and it just doesn't work. Who knows? But also, I want to say this about Lucha Bros. I don't think they're going to be a team for too long because of the fact of how good singles wrestlers Pentagon and Phoenix are. They're both really good. I've gone on record and said I'm not a big fan of Phoenix, personally. Like, there's high fly, he does high fly, flippy stuff, which I usually enjoy. It's just his style is not my cup of tea. And I'm not saying that because I think he's a bad wrestler. I'll admit, he's a good wrestler. But it's just not that he's not one of my favorite high flyers or wrestlers right now. Pentagon's always kind of been a bit of a different luchador. He's not the traditional high flyer, big move. Yeah, he does big moves, but it's not like his only thing. He's slow, methodical, and more hardcore. I would love to see a singles run from Pentagon in AEW in the near future. But there's still so much that both guys can do as a tag team, so it's like really hard to say when that split's going to happen, because I just feel like it is going to happen. Plus, they qualify as brothers, and one brother always turns on the other before it gets too late. That's how wrestling works, apparently. Look at Matt and Jeff. And Edge and Christian, for that matter. I don't know when they stop tagging them as brothers and just being lifelong friends, which they are, actually. They're not brothers. But one brother always turns on the other. It's probably going to be Pentagon and Phoenix. And Private Party is kind of like the up-and-coming young team. They're essentially what the Street Profits were when they first started in NXT, I think is a fair comparison to make. They were young, they were different, they were new, and they're still adjusting. You can tell to the high-paced style of AEW and like the big market, but they're coming across really well, and they've looked good in their first couple outings that I've seen. So I'm very excited to see what actually is next for them. So then we have the Women's Championship match. Riho versus Emi Sakura, who apparently is Riho's mentor. which we didn't know until this week. This also, I think, was kind of a last-minute ad because they were like, oh, our women's champion doesn't have a match. They put Riho versus Sakura on the show, and I'm very, very, very skeptical about it. I'll admit Riho's had a pretty good year overall. She's in the running to be in my women's top 10 of the year rankings. But I need to see just a little more, to like solidify the fact that I think they made the right call in her being the first champion. From what we've seen from Nyla Rose recently, it makes sense why she wasn't the first champion. She simply is not ready yet. But with Riho, I want to see just that extra little oomph, that extra little something that we haven't seen yet. And I'm hoping we get to see that here. And she proves to the whole world why she should be the first champion. Is it going to happen? Who knows? Maybe. I also don't see Sakura winning the title from her because of the fact that I don't think it was ever confirmed that she was signed to an AEW contract. I just think it was confirmed that this is the match happening. Actually, let's see here. I can do this. Read article about AEW. Let's go to personnel. That's not what I wanted. Where is their roster page? I should just look at AEW roster, shouldn't I? AEWR. List of AEW personnel. There we go. I want female wrestlers, please. Thank you. Oh no, she is signed. Okay then, never mind. So that makes things even more interesting. But I still don't see Sakura, I don't know yet. I don't see her winning the championship from Riho simply because of the fact Riho did just win the title. It's weird because whenever a show has its first ever pay-per-view, that's what, and the champions have already been crowned, that's what you're going to say. Like, they just won the championship. They can't really lose it in their first defense. So I see Riho retaining because of the fact that it is legitimately her first defense. And yes, they said the same thing for SoCal Uncensored, but it's true, to be fair. It's really true. Now, we move from the Women's Championship match to, what is it? Oh yeah, the match we were supposed to get at Double or Nothing. Pac versus Hangman Page. Page is kind of a weird one to think about when it comes to AEW. He's looked good, yes, don't get me wrong. That's not the reason why I'm saying he's an interesting look. It's interesting because of the fact that, you look at what he's done. He's like the guy who's right there, ready to be in the main event scene, but he just isn't there yet. And you're going to have to see him develop a little bit more, which I'm totally fine with. But I feel like Pac is going to be that hurdle for him. You know how, like, whenever somebody tries to break into the main event scene, there's always that hurdle. For Jeff Hardy, it was always the WWE Championship. He could never get the WWE title. And then he did. You see it all the time. You saw it with AJ, who was it in TNA that could never win the TNA title? Magnus. He was always like right there on the edge, and he could never win the Impact Wrestling Championship. And then he did. Let's see that with Paige. Let's see Paige start to build up to be this next main event guy. But right now, Pac is going to be his first hurdle. He's going to have to get over Pac to eventually be able to get over the hurdle of being world champion. That's what I want to see. And I feel like that's going to be the case. Because of the fact that Pac's also been booked kind of weirdly recently. And yeah, there was that huge botch by the referee or Beretta, who knows, on a Dynamite this past week. And I think they want Pac to look better. That's what they need to do. Pac needs to get that win. Get the win here on Saturday. Now let's go to the Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz. I fear, and I always say this, and I hate that it's the first thing in my brain every time, but it's true. I fear whenever the Elite is in a match in AEW, they're just going to book themselves to win. I don't want that. I hope that's not the case, and I don't think it will be here. Now, can I see it winning? Or can I see it happening? Can I see the Bucks winning? Absolutely. I can totally see it happening. But I would rather have Santana and Ortiz win for two reasons. One, it makes sense for them to be built up, and then maybe they're the ones who take the championship, the tag titles from SoCal Uncensored. And then eventually you get the titles on the Bucks that way. And you build up Santana and Ortiz to be this dominant heel team that nobody can beat. And then the Bucks step up to the plate and they beat them. I can legitimately see that happen. So I just literally said both reasons in one sentence. They're part of the new dominant heel stable. And it would allow for the Young Bucks then to not put themselves over here, but do it at some point later. So yeah, that one actually went pretty quick. Good for me. And for you guys too. Next up, the AEW World Championship match. Chris Jericho defending against Cody. If Cody loses, he will never challenge for the AEW World Championship again. And simply because of that added stipulation, Cody's losing. Pure, plain and simple, Cody is losing there. Now, I look at it as this, pretty much. There's so much going on in this main event scene right now that this title match has kind of almost fallen to the wayside. Like, Jericho's been competing every week. We've seen Cody maybe every other. And then there's this whole judge system thing that's happening with it. Like, why can't we just accept that the time limit draw is a thing that can happen? And it simply can be used as a storytelling mechanic that New Japan Pro Wrestling used perfectly. And I don't know if you remember this, but Cody, Kenny Omega, and the Bucks all came from New Japan. They should understand that time limit draws have their place in professional wrestling. So, this judge system, it's going to be a 3-judge system. One, we don't know who the judges are. Part of me thinks that, and also this is where my other part of Cody losing kind of comes in. I see MJF having that turn on Cody here. You can kind of see it coming through everything and every little marketing material that they've used. You can see that MJF is going to be turned. We don't know when, but we know it's happening. Do it here. Either he actually costs Cody the match, and Cody then can never challenge for the AEW Championship again, or have him be one of the judges, have the score be like 21-20, 21-20, 21-20, 21-20, so that way Jericho can win by unanimous, or even split decision, and it turns out MJF is the one who cost Cody the championship. I see MJF being a big factor in this match. He's not on the show at any capacity yet. Could it be a late ad, like a day of ad? Absolutely. But I don't know if it's going to happen. But this would be a perfect way to get him on the show. And it would get him so much heat if he's the one to cost Cody any future chances at the AEW Championship. Do I expect the stipulation to last? Hell no. I think it's going to last maybe 3 months tops. Cody's challenging for the next pay-per-view. Who knows? But then that leads us to the main event. I don't even know why I need to reopen Wikipedia for it. I know this one. It is a unsanctioned match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. I'm of two minds of this. One, this could start the rise of Kenny Omega from the ashes to the top, or this could be the continuation of the demise, for lack of a better term, of Kenny Omega. Now, this could, if you go with the former, you go with the rise, Omega has to beat Moxley. If you go with the latter, Moxley beats Omega. I think it's going to be the latter, because of the fact that Kenny Omega is this person that even average pro wrestling fans know the name. People might not know the name Jon Moxley because it's a character, it's a face they're familiar with, but it's not a name they're familiar with, for lack of a better comparison there. Wrestling fans around the world know Kenny Omega. If Moxley beats Kenny Omega, you do help increase Moxley's stock with the fans too. But also the fact that this continues the story of, is Omega good enough? Or was Omega's best stuff left in Japan? It makes you wonder where they're going to go, so I'm very curious to see. I think Moxley's winning. I think it's a closer match than what we think. I do think we see blood. I think we see barbed wire. I think we see crazy stuff happening. It could be booked like a DDT match for all I know from Japan. They just go absolutely crazy and just go all out. But we'll see. Those are my predictions for Full Gear. I closed the page that I had open for it, where I had the match card. I feel dumb. To recap, I have Britt Baker winning on the pre-show. I have B. Priestley winning on the pre-show. Spears over Janela. SoCal and Censor retains. Riho retains. Pac over Page. Santana and Ortiz over the Bucks. Jericho retains over Cody. And Moxley over Omega. That is it also for this week's Armchair Armdrager Podcast. I kind of have a new format. I'm trying to keep things a little shorter. Don't know how that's really going to work, but we'll see. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can follow myself on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. You can follow All Things Combat, which is a website I write for where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA over at Things Combat. We have a merch store. We have Christmas merch. We have stuff that you can buy. Merch store link will be in the description below. I also am the sports editor over at The Cauldron at Cleveland State. You can follow us on Twitter at CSU Cauldron. We've been a little active on there recently about stuff that I don't want to touch on this podcast. This podcast is in no way, shape, or form affiliated with The Cauldron. It's just a way for me to help promote the school newspaper where we report news that happens on campus. News, sports, opinions people have on campus, arts and entertainments that happen involving Cleveland State or around Cleveland State, and other stories too. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you really like what you hear, hit subscribe. If you just like what you hear, leave a like. Leave a comment down below. I'm always willing to chat more about pro wrestling for all you know. Maybe I'll respond to your comment. I probably will if you ever comment. Thank you guys so much for listening. See you next week. We'll have... what will we have next week? We'll probably have Survivor Series and TakeOver War Games predictions. I think. My dates might be right on that one. We also have Full Gear results. So it's pretty much going to be pay-per-view talk. That's going to be next week. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys then.